Hey everybody, welcome to Thessaloniki, Greece. I am in Greece's second biggest city up in the northern part of the country. If you've never made it up here, I highly recommend it. It's an awesome town, got a lot of good cuisine, got a lot of good beaches, history, culture, nightlife, everything you need. And one of the big mistakes that I think a lot of people make when they come to Greece, especially for the first time, is that they just focus on Athens and the islands. But there are a lot of cool offerings up here in the upper part of the country if you ever get a chance to make it up here. And right behind me, as you can see here in Thessaloniki, is a statue of Alexander the Great on the back of his horse, Bukephalos. That was his beloved horse. And quick story about him and the horse is that when Alexander was about 12 years old, his dad had taken him out to buy a horse. And his dad was King Philip II at the time, who was in charge of Macedonia. And they had various horses displayed, but the one that caught Alexander's eye was this one here. It was all jet black with a white star right in the middle of its forehead. But the problem was that it was quite wild. And even the professional horse trainers couldn't get up close enough to touch it, or let alone to mount it. But this is the one that Alexander wanted. And he told his dad, he said, "Dad, that's the horse that I want." His dad said, "Well, it looks rather dangerous, and if you try to mount it and you don't, not only am I not paying for it, but if you're injured, you're going to be in trouble." So Alexander was already a gifted kid to begin with, I mean, from birth. And that, coupled with the fact that he had the famous Aristotle as his teacher, made him even more clever. And what he realized that nobody else did, not even his professional horse trainers, was that Bukephalos was scared of his shadow. And as he was walking up, and people were walking up with the direction of the sun, he would see his shadow and he would panic. He'd rear up on his right hind legs, he would buck, he would neigh. And so Alexander told his dad, he goes, "I think I got to figure it out, and you're going to be buying me the horse." So he approached him from a direction where Bukephalos could not see his shadow. And not only did he let Alexander walk up to him, but he let him get on his back. And the two were inseparable ever since. Actually, one good story about a brief separation between the two was that when Alexander had already gone into Persia, Bukephalos had been stolen. And he was so distraught over hearing this that he sent out heralds, messengers everywhere, everybody within a couple days' ride, to proclaim that if my horse was not returned to me straight away, the quote, I think as best as I can get it, is that I will slaughter every inhabitant, I will go into your country, I will fell every tree, I will destroy every temple, and I will lay waste to your countryside if my horse is not returned to me. I'm kind of butchering the exact quote, but I think you get the picture on that. Bukephalos, coincidentally, was returned very safely the next day, along with pleas for mercy. And whether or not Alexander ever honored those pleas, we're not told in history, but he did have his horse returned to him. He rode Bukephalos into every major battle that he fought, when he went into Persia, when he went into the Near East, when he went into India. And the two were absolutely, like I said, inseparable to the point where when Bukephalos eventually died at the age of 30, Alexander built a city and named the city after him, Bukephala, which is in India, which I believe still stands today. So one other quick thing, and again, I'm not going to really focus on what this man did as far as his exploits. Those are all matters of history, which we're all very familiar with. And one thing that I will talk about is the wisdom that he exemplified even up to death. So in the year 323 BC, at the age of 32, he had fallen very, very ill, and he knew he was going to die. And he was in Babylon. He and his generals had engaged in a very, very lively drinking bout a few nights prior. Immediately after that, he fell into a very, very bad sickness. Virologists and everybody have debated over the years whether it was he contracted malaria somewhere, maybe possibly in India, if he had been accidentally poisoned through the alcohol that he was drinking, or if he was intentionally poisoned. But nonetheless, he was very ill. He knew he wasn't going to make it, and he did two things. One was that in his hospital room, he had opened the doors and he ordered his generals to let every single soldier file through so that he could greet them all personally. To the best of his ability, physically, he touched their hands, he made eye contact with every one of them, he thanked them for his service. And immediately before death, the other thing that he did was he told his generals, he said, "Look, I have 3 wishes that I'd like you to carry out. One is that my funeral procession, when you're taking me through town, I want my coffin carried by the best doctors, my personal physicians." And he said, "Number 2, I want all of my gold and my silver coins strewn out in the street behind me for anybody who wants to pick them up and keep them. And number 3, in my coffin, I want my hands hanging outside of the coffin, open and displayed empty." And his general said, of course, we'll grant you those wishes, absolutely, but those are very odd wishes. We never heard any such things like that. Can we ask why? And he said, well, he says, number one, I want the whole world to see that in the face of death, even the best doctors are completely powerless. My own best physicians from all over the world could not help me, and I want everybody to realize that when your time comes, your time comes. Number two, I want everybody to see that I can't take my wealth with me, nor can anybody else. So I'm going to leave it behind for all of my subjects. Whoever wants it, they can have it, because I certainly can't take it with me into the great beyond. And number three, I came into this world with open, empty hands, and I want everybody to see that I am leaving the same way with open, empty hands. So again, just a really wise guy. He was very benevolent. He treated his enemies with equal respect as he did his friends. One quick story is that when he had gone into Persia and he had King Darius III on the run, his Persian adversary, who was the king of Persia, Darius was actually killed by his own generals, and it was Persian generals that were hoping to ingratiate themselves into Alexander's good graces. And when Alexander heard this, and he found the body of Darius, he did two things. One, he gave Darius a royal funeral befitting of a king and a person of his stature. And number two, he hunted down all the generals who killed him, and he summarily executed them because he was disgusted at the way that they had turned on their own king, the way that they did. Even after he had taken Darius's mother and his sisters as hostages. They were hostages in name only. They can come and go as they please. They had full reign of his court. He treated them very, very kindly. In fact, we're told that upon Alexander's death, Darius' own mother, who had lived for some years with Alexander as her hostage guest, became so distraught that she ended up committing suicide. I guess she could not bear the idea of living in a world without Alexander. And apparently Darius' sisters, who had lived with also under Alexander's roof, they were completely inconsolable as well. So just a really wise man. And again, this is his birthplace. He was actually from Verkhina, which is not far from here. That's where the royal tombs are, where his father, King Philip, was laid to rest. We don't know where Alexander was laid to rest. We think that the most likely spot was probably Alexandria, Egypt, but his tomb, his resting place has never been found. Sounds like kind of almost like a cool plot for the next Indiana Jones movie. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for watching. Check out my YouTube channel, Herodotus Reborn, and we'll see you soon.